Amit sir, can we have that experts introduction,
Yes,
please?
yes.
Yeah.
So,
Am I audible?
yes, sir, you are audible. Very good morning.
Good morning. May I request something? My fellow person, Mr. Raghupati or Murali, can you please talk and can you please check the audio video, please?
Sure, sir. Amit sir.
Is it audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Muralidharan, it's quite audible. Thank
Yeah,
you.
fine.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Ankur. You can proceed just to check before you start. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So once again, we welcome all our eminent speakers, experts, and I would say it's going to be a historical session because we have this time a team of experts with us. Those who are going to share their expertise with all the participants, since we have many participants again join this session. So without any further delay, I'll take this opportunity to introduce our all the experts in this session. So we'll start with Mr. R. Eswaran, who is the General Manager, EDRC L&T Constructions. So we welcome you, sir. And sir is right now the General Manager at EDRC, Public Space Division, Engineering Design and Research Center at L&T Construction. Sir did his ME Structures, PSG College of Technology, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, in 1995. And sir is also the member, affiliated member, AMIE, Institute of Civil Engineers, India, 1991. And regarding his professional background, sir has 25 plus years of the experience handling various projects in hospitals, airports, IT offices, malls, and multiplexes, industrial buildings, stadiums, and data centers. So friends, you can see that how versatile he is about his working experience. And his specializations are in the RCC and steel structures, particularly precast and pre-stressed concrete structures in the stadiums, offices, and commercial buildings. He has rich experience in seismic analysis and design using Indian and various international codes also. He has experience in designing large span steel structures, roof structures in airport passenger terminal buildings. His milestone projects are like G200 Hospital in AI Thamwadi, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Hyderabad International Airport, Mumbai International Airport, Salahal International Airport, Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium, which is one of the point of catch in this presentation and in this FDP also. He has fellow membership in Indian Institution of Civil Engineers. So, Sir, I would request for the next slide. So, Mr. K. Muralidharan, he is a Senior Engineering Manager, EDRC, L&T in Constructions. His background runs like this. His education, he is ME Structures from Alagappa Chettiar College of Engineering and Technology, Tamil Nadu, 2006. And he did his bachelor's from the Hindustan College of Engineering, Padur, Tamil Nadu, 1998. Regarding his professional background, he bears 14 plus years of experience in handling various projects like IT parks, malls, and stadiums. So, dear participants, you can see that Sir bears the handling the experience of massive structures and his specialization in concrete and precast buildings. His milestone projects are Elante Mall at Chandigarh, IT Parks for TCS at Rajarhat, Kolkata, iGate at Pune, iGate at Airoli, Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium at Gujarat, stations and depots for the Mumbai Ahmedabad High Speed Rail. So it's really fortunate event for all of us to have him with us. Now we have Mr. M. Ramamurthy, Raghupati. I beg your pardon, sir. Mr. M. Raghupati, Chief Engineer Manager, EDRC L&T Constructions. So, sir did his ME in 2002 from MEPCO Slanek Engineering College, specialized in the structures, and did his bachelor's from Adi Prakash T Engineering College, Melmarvettu, Tamil Nadu, in 1998 in the civil engineering. And regarding his professional background, he bears 20 years of the work experience handling various projects in minerals and material handling in power plants, steel plants, IT, and office buildings and stadiums. His specialization is in the structural steel buildings and composite structures, process buildings like a crusher house, screen house, silos, and beams, wagon triplers, conveyors, galleries, stakers and barrel reclaimers, and transfer points. His milestone projects are AP Secretariat Interim Complex, Motera Cricket Stadium, ISP Steel Plant, Coal and Ore Handling at Burnpur, coal handling projects for NTPC power plants at Kaha, Logan, Barh and Simarthi, Adani, Tiroda coal handling projects, and coal handling at Dharma Port. So we have our fourth expert with us, Mr. Arvind Kumar K, Principal Architect, EDRC L&T Constructions. He did his Bachelor's of Architecture from SRM Engineering College in 2007 and MBEM, that is Master in Building Engineering and Management from School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi in 2012. Regarding his professional background, he has more than 13 years of experience of handling various projects, including stadium, malls, convention center, and stations. He has vast experience in handling various types of finishes materials. His milestone projects are transfer-oriented development mall, come multiplex for Hyderabad Metro Rail at Punja Gutta and Iram Manzil, Hyderabad, Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium at Ahmedabad. So I think, Amit sir, we are done with the introduction of the experts.
Yes.
Okay, so with this introduction, however, it's due to the time constraints, it may not be the complete introduction. However, we have put our best efforts to do the needful for the audience because it's very much important that to whom they are listening, it should be very clearly given an introduction. So I welcome all the experts together at this moment, and now it's over to you, sir, for carrying on with the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ankur. It was very nice introduction. It's crisp and sharp. We are very much happy, and I think it is you communicated everything to all the audience. Thank you very much once again.
Yes, sir.
I think, sir, can you please confirm that the presentation slides are visible?
Yes, sir, it's visible and your voice is quite audible. So please carry on.
Yeah, thank you very much for confirmation. Dear audience, dear friends, it is our pleasure our delightment to be part of this webinar, this session. Today morning, I was in the inaugural session. In this chief guest, Dr. Sandeep Sanchetti, he was mentioning about the urge, the need, the requirement, like, we should have a dream. We should have refreshment in our whatever the curriculum is doing now. We should not have a very regular curriculum. We should have an update. And he was happy about that India is improving. And we should try to improve our knowledge to get more infrastructure project, more development in our country. It was very nice. And I am very happy that the Marwadi University has set to make knowledge training center, knowledge sharing session of various fields to get benefit from the practical field to the faculty. It is very nice opportunity to you, to us, to share the knowledge to you. Also, we have regular curriculum things which we should have an update in our regular engineering, then which is a latest engineering applications, and what is the latest technology. Civil engineering is having a very tremendous influence to get change. Like, we have to convert to lean construction. We have to have somewhat, we should have some sort of a sustainability. We should take care about that in civil engineering, and also about the new technology like 3D modeling and all. Therefore, rather going for the very regular way, we should have an update, and also the curriculum to get refreshed, and it should have a knowledge from the practical field also. Therefore, with that orientation, this knowledge sharing session will be helpful to you. I will move to the next slide. Next slide, please. Murali, you can move to the next slide.
Yes, sir.
Dear friends, as I told you, knowledge sharing is very important. The right information brings the knowledge. Knowledge is a power. Sharing the knowledge brings the empowerment. Knowledge increased by sharing, not savings. These are the mantra we should have. Therefore, today we have knowledge. We are going to share to you to light your candle in it so that you will get enriched. With that understanding, we will proceed to the next slide. Next slide, please. The presentation or the webinar will flow like this. I am heading the department. I am going to make some good introduction to you so that it is going to get set about the webinar. Along with me, my fellow engineers are there who worked with me. They are going to explain first part about the architecture, how the architecture has been developed in short form so that you will understand the architecture portion or the particular portion of the stadium. Then follows by the stadium contains two parts. One is the structure, RCC structure part, and the structural steel part that will be explained by K. Muralidharan and M. Raghupati. Moving to the introduction part. We have the client has an aim to develop a huge the world's class stadium. With that, we formed a engineering and design team. The engineering team contains the architecture portion. The concept and scheme design was developed by Populous, the very world famous sports architect from Australia. We took their base design, concept and scheme design. After that, detailed design has been developed by our own L&T construction design team. Then structural part, we took stadium RCC structural design, our own team, L&T construction we did. Steel fabrics and roof design has been done by Walter P. Moore, the famous person, the leading structural designer from USA. And VIP facade is a very peculiar thing which has been done by us. Next slide. As you know that this stadium has, other than the structure and the architecture part, we need to concentrate in terms of other aspect, not only the engineering. Along with the part, we have to take care about the sustainability, green building, green ratings. Therefore, this stadium has achieved IGBC green rating for the gold. We aimed for silver, but we could manage to get the green building rating of IGBC gold. Total energy saving of 21%. We use the water savings of potable water, sewage conveyance, etc., etc. And in that, the 100% LED lighting was provided to reduce the energy. And more than 40% of the construction materials are procured locally. 20% of the construction material are procured by the recycled content. Usage of materials or VOC, carbon emission, less emissions we conduct. Next slide. Engineering does not have only to complete the analysis and design. It also has the other part that along with the construction thing, we have to have a design in terms of quality aspect, designer to concern about quality aspect in terms of safety purpose, because one of the safety things which engineering can contribute is avoid less in situ concrete, provide a precast so that the construction will be done in the controlled manner in the precast practice so that the erection alone will be done. There will not be any pollution outside. Therefore, the quality or the safety can be achieved through design. Then after that, we will be projected. We will project our things for various awards. We started to get various awards. We started to receive various awards. We recently got Outstanding Concrete Structure Award 2018 from ICI. We also got Outstanding Steel Structure for Facade Structure from ACCE recently. Going to the next slide, please. Yeah, these are the awards which we have. We have for the safety, we have for digitalization. We also got for, as I told you, got ACCE excellence in usage of hollow sections in the steel structure. Next. The most wanted thing is that customer satisfaction. After this, we got a lot of feedback from various cricket players after doing this, after playing in the match in the cricket field. These slides shows how the player felt the experience after playing in the cricket field. Next slide, please. With this introduction, friends, I am very sure that you will get very much empowered by along with the presentation. I right now hand over to Arvind Kumar, architect, who will explain the various forms of the architecture which is getting developed, followed by K. Muralidharan and Raghupati. Thank you very much. Please listen and enlighten yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishwaran sir. And I wish to register my sincere thanks to my organization for having given this opportunity, and also to Mawadi University for having given us this opportunity to make this wonderful presentation. So this is regarding what was there in the old site. When it comes to the term redevelopment, it means it is a brownfield site. So in the brownfield site, what we earlier existing had was a 40,000 seats stadium. And other facilities that were present at the site were 3 practice fields and a small clubhouse and a swimming pool. And with this, the client had given us an intent to develop it into the world's largest cricket stadium, which means at that time, the benchmark that was available to us was only the Melbourne cricket ground. And so we had to be a level more than them. And when it comes to the Melbourne cricket ground and the benchmarking ourselves, it means we have to get in touch with the consultant who had basically done the design for the Melbourne cricket ground, who fortunately happens to be Populous. So we were associated with Populous, who gave us this conceptual idea of proceeding with this design. So The earlier stadium was constrained in a lot of different ways, where it had only one basic approach to the main site complex. The site complex was around 63 acres, and this was the only main approach to the stadium site. But what we later developed was we had three approaches. Thanks to the intervention of the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, also we were able to achieve three entrances to this particular stadium. And in future, we are expecting to add two more entrances, which is because of the Sabarmati riverfront development, which is going to get extended till the pressings of this particular stadium. So as you can see, what was existing earlier and what has now been developed at this site is a vast change and vast development that has happened in this entire area. And with further facilities like metro and all that also coming up, it is going to further fuel the growth in this particular area. As I earlier said, the Sabarmati riverfront is basically happening, is going to get extended here. And this is the basic, this is the Sabarmati river flowing very adjacent to our site. So when it comes to the Melbourne Cricket Ground, as I earlier said, the capacity. Melbourne was basically built to a capacity of 1 lakh seats. And we initially thought of having nearly about 1 lakh 25, but there were a bit of constraints and we had to keep ourselves constrained to 1 lakh 10,000 seats. And also that being an international sporting arena, the kind of facilities that were provided over there, and we had to take into account the other features that which will be required to adjust our design to the current playing trends as well as to the expected future playing trends. And when it comes to a stadium or any arena for that matter, what is more important is basically the viewing experience. And this stadium, I'll be happy to say that it's perfectly designed as per the Green Guide. The Green Guide is the international safety code for sporting arenas, which has for cricketing arenas, which has been given forth by the UK Sports Authority. And at present, this is the only the sporting guide that is available for us to take forward designs of this stature and nature. So what were the main issues that we faced during the design? There was a temple which was there inside the stadium complex, and that was to be retained as it was considered sentimental to the development of the site and to the functioning of the site as well. And the positioning of the stadium. If you were able to see from this slide, this is the only pocket of land that is available for development fully. So considering that the scale of the stadium was supposed to be the scale of the stadium and the nature that was supposed to be placed over here, we had further constraints, like there was there was a HT line running over here. So we had to make sure that that HT line clearance was also obtained, and we had to make that HT line also underground. So it involved intervention of so many other agencies. So we had to function in conjunction with a lot of other agencies to make this project a success. The entry and exit. As I earlier said, there was only one entry and exit for this particular stadium when it had a capacity of 40,000, but now it has been built to a capacity of 1,10,000, to be precise, a little more than what we have achieved, more than this 1,10,000 seats. So which means we need to cater to a large capacity. We need to take into account circulation, exit and entry of vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, players movement before the function, the exit after the function, smooth exit after the function, and egress in terms of an emergency, how the person is going to get out of the stadium within the minimum stipulated time, which is as per Green Guide 8 minutes. So we had to intervene with additional, we had to intervene with a lot of new innovations like our white column staircases and our straight flight staircases, which I'll explain in the further slides, to basically meet this requirement of exiting the stadium out in 8 minutes. And earlier, as I said, to achieve the best viewing capacity for every single person seated in this arena is the prime criteria of this design. And being such a large stadium, and the field of play is also sized as per our ICC standards and more or less similar to the Melbourne Cricket Ground. And when it comes to accommodating such a huge population, it means we can expect so many vehicles. That is a basic, any code or norm states that we need to design to cater to parking as per the requirement of the seating capacity. So to accommodate so many parkings, we have achieved nearly about 3,000 cars and 10,000 two-wheelers. That is again one of the prime constraints, because we had to, there were a lot of other future developments that also got added. So because of that, we had to make sure that every single portion of land was utilized effectively to provide whatever facilities that were required as per the RFP, as well as meeting the parking requirements that were stipulated by the local municipal corporation. And in integrating the future planning and additional scope, making way for future planning, making way for additional scope, actually speaking, the initial contract that was awarded to us was only for the clubhouse, the main stadium, the clubhouse and its allied facilities, and parking sufficing to them. So initially we had a lot of space that was available, but finally we had to add a training facility, which was also as per the Sports Authority of India guidelines. This was required to basically make it into an arena for a lot of other sporting activities like martial arts, badminton, both indoor and outdoor, hockey and football. So because of this, we had to make sure that every single parcel of land was really effectively utilized to provide the parking as well as these facilities and the allied facilities. So this is an aerial view of the stadium. As you see, this is the main stadium complex. This is the south side, which is having a direct view of the Sabarmati River. And here we have placed the iconic VIP pavilion. This contains almost all the players' facilities and the VIP suites and the VIP dining and all that. And directly opposite that, we have placed the media center. And there are, like I said, this is the main entry. The main entry leads onto this very huge podium, nearly about 50,000 square meters. And this podium happens to be the intermediate level between the upper bowl and the lower bowl. The upper bowl and the lower bowl are two structures which we call in this stadium, which are basically the seating tiers. These seating tiers have capacity of nearly about 50,000 seats each, and these are the basic core components of the sporting arena. So this is the intermediate level that is dividing the upper bowl, that is connecting the upper bowl and the lower bowl. And there are two entry and exit ramps. These entry and exit ramps basically carry all the ticketing areas and all that. I'll explain it in the forthcoming slides. Like I said, this is the existing temple. So we had to retain that temple. This is the clubhouse. This clubhouse had to be a standalone facility. So which means it had to function 24 hours and 365 days without any interruption, irrespective of whether there is going to be a match happening in the main stadium or not, which means it requires a separate entry and exit. Hence, we have placed it at the northmost corner of the site, where there's a dedicated entry. This you see is a Motera Cricket Stadium main road. From here, there's a society road that leads to the precincts of the clubhouse. So we have utilized this entry to the clubhouse to make it function as a standalone facility. This is the indoor sports. This is the indoor sports complex, and this is the supporting outdoor facilities for this indoor sports complex. And this is a practice ground, and all that you see here is the parking, and of course the substations and all that are the allied facilities for functioning for the functioning of the stadium. This particular road that you see here will be used in terms of in other days to access this particular temple over here. So in terms of excuse me, just a second. There are three entry pockets to this particular site. One is from the Motera Cricket Stadium main road. This happens to be the main entry because here is where we have the maximum intervention with the main road. The other is, as I said, the Clubhouse Cricket Stadium, the Clubhouse Society Road. And there is a third entry that was created by the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation to basically suffice the exit requirements of this particular stadium. And this is the clubhouse, this is the main stadium, and this is the field B, and the existing temple and all those facilities are functioning that are part of this stadium complex. Like I said earlier, there is this is a super huge podium over here, and there is a main entry and the secondary entry. This is one of its first kinds in India, and this podium does not only cater to the facilities to to approach the upper bowl and the lower bowl, but it also has additional food and beverage facilities and toilets basically for physically handicapped. As you can see, this stadium is also designed for the disabled people. That is the norm of the day. So we had to make sure that they do not have to go below a certain level to access the toilets. So we've tried to position all the toilets along the periphery of this large podium so that anybody sitting on this arena can really approach the toilet from here. Any handicapped person who requires, he can access this toilet complex over here. And further, there is a this stadium is the first of its kind which can offer a 360-degree view while you stand in any corner of the podium. This is also enunciating other activities like air movement and all that during actual match play conditions. This is the upper bowl access complex, the upper bowl access Y column staircases. This is one of the most unique features of the stadium. This is a precast structure which will be further explained by my colleague, Mr. Muralidharan. And there is also another straight flight staircase which leads to the upper bowl. This is a view of the main entry and the secondary entry. The security frisking and all that happens at the main entry and the secondary entry at the intermediate large level, which is a flat platform from where they diverge onto their particular seats. The other unique feature is we have tried to basically split the circulation in the stadium into the vehicular movement or the players movement and the main spectator movement. The vehicular movement happens at the ground floor, whereas the main spectator movement happens at the podium. So at the entry, both of them are separated and taken out into separate approaches. The upper bowl has around 50 rows and the lower bowl has around 55 rows. Like I said, it seats around 50,000 seats in this and 50,000 seats in this. And this is the upper dormitory staircase and this is the lower dormitory staircase. And roughly around the height of the stadium will be around 35 meters till the top of the tension ring. The upper bowl is partially covered by a tensile fabric, which is 30-meter wide. The erection process and the design details of which will be shared by my colleague, Mr. Raghupati. Coming to the main building, the VIP pavilion. The VIP pavilion has at its ground floor the GC association office, the testing and the support facilities, which are for doping control and first aid and all those facilities and all that are accommodated in the ground floor. The upper ground floor, as we call this particular this particular level is the players level. And the players level is considered having the dressing rooms, the gyms, and the allied facilities. The third level is the banquet level. This has a 400 persons banquet hall, and it also has team players lounge. The fourth level is the VVIP suites level and the presidential suites level. The highlight of this is it is placed directly at perpendicular to the field of play, where you can have a direct view of the pitches. This particular stadium also has 4 number of dressing rooms. The reason being that it has to cater to the T20 format. When we have back-to-back 2 matches, two dressing rooms can be used for one set of match, and the other 2 dressing rooms can be used for the other set of match, which enhances the present playing format and which can also take forward further conditions. This is some of the views of the entrance lobby, the VVIP suite, the lockers for the players, the presidential suite, the Hall of the Fame, and the President's office. The other unique feature of the stadium is the roof structure and the lighting. The lighting we have provided in such a way that it has been placed on the inner ring of the roof. Further details will be given by Mr. Raghupati. And this thing is a unique feature. This basically has full LED lights. This was basically done because the HIMARS lights were more tending to create more of light and play during the actual play condition, light and shadow during the actual play condition. So this was done to remove the shadows while at play. And this has also managed to create a kind of a crown effect while viewed during night from a long distance when the lighting is fully on. The other main building is the clubhouse. It has a 25 meters by 50 meters swimming pool, which is designed as per Olympic standards and which is around 2.4 meter deep. A squash court, a badminton, table tennis, carom, cards, TV room, reading room, outdoor children's play area, lawn tennis, which is also outdoor change rooms and sauna, kids pool. There is 50 number of guest rooms, which are regular guest rooms, and 5 number of suites, which are luxury suites, which has additional dining areas as well. There is a banquet hall, which is around 200 seating capacity and a landscape terrace. Like this is the basic floor layout of the clubhouse. As you can see in the ground floor, the sporting facilities are on the left side and the banquet facilities on the right side. The ground mezzanine has the office and the gym. The first floor has the suites and the landscape terrace. The second floor has the suites, and the third floor is basically the luxury suites. We placed it in such a way that we get a good view of all the surrounding areas, the river, the stadium, and all the precincts which create more interest in this site. These are some of the interior photographs of the clubhouse, the typical suite, the TV room, the badminton, snooker, squash court, gymnasium, and the check-in, check-out lobby. This is the front view and the rear view of the clubhouse. This clubhouse is basically centered around the swimming pool, which is a main feature of the stadium. Therefore, it is also fully cladded with sandstone, and this also enunciates more view of the more interest in the facade. It also has GRC Jali. As your earlier palaces and all that, if you see around the Jodhpur region, Rajasthan, and all of them were mostly done in sandstone. So we've captured as much as possible local elements in this, and we have tried to take it forward to create a lot of interest with GRC Jali and sandstone. From here onwards, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mr. K. Muralidharan. He'll take forward the structural aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvind. Good morning, respected professors and other dignitaries all over the world. This is Muralidharan, and I will take you through the structural aspects covering the uniqueness of the structure, the structural system of the stadium, and about the mega precast elements. Further, my colleague Raghupati will be taking up the structural steel roof and facade elements. Coming to the uniqueness of the structure, our prime motto when the job started was to adopt precast system to the maximum extent possible. So that was our prime motto, and wherein we landed with more than 50% of the stadium area has been done with precast, and we have used around 15,000 elements which were casted, meticulously handled and erected. And we have used elements which weigh from 3 metric tons, which is the minimum weight for the lower bowl, the seating elements, to the maximum of 280 metric tons for the Y columns being used. And we also have adopted that unique dry type connection for the beam column junctions of the upper bowl using structural steel members, which were having a huge forces which need to be transferred from the beams to the columns. And the maximum weight adopted is around 235 metric tons. There is a bare weight of the Y column, the rear Y column, which is a single piece asymmetrically shaped and 35-meter high element. And coming to the steel roof, it's the upper bowl is covered with a steel roof, which is around 30-meter cantilever based on the spoke wheel concept. And the roof is covered with a PTFE fabric membrane, wherein the FOP lights are placed along the inner edge of the tension ring. And we have also used around 5.3 kilometers of precast drains in the stadium complex. Now, this is the overall stadium bowl without the roof. The structure is radially divided into 6 blocks apart from the entry and exit ramps. We have the block 1, which is basically the VIP pavilion, and block 2 to 6 covers the general area seating, which has the upper bowl, lower bowl, and the podium structure, and an intermediate structure which basically caters to the toilet areas. And this image represents a stadium bowl with a roof, wherein we have the outer compression ring and inner tension ring, and both are connected with the radial cables, and the roof is covered with the PTFE fabric. The entire roof structure is supported on structural steel V-shaped columns, which are supported on the concrete column at the podium level. And this entire structure is isolated from the podium level to avoid any kind of a seismic activity to and from the roof structure. This is one typical bay, the structural system of one typical bay of the stadium. wherein you have the Y-shaped columns. The rear Y column is called a HY column, and the front Y column is named as GY column, basically based on the grid locations. And this is connected by the radial beam at the top. And we have the upper bowl seating elements are with the double L bleacher units. And as mentioned earlier, like we have two vomitory staircases, upper and lower vomitory staircase. And we have the podium level, which is done, which is basically done with the hollow core slabs. Now, coming to the elements of the stadium, we have we can categorized into 4 elements, basically the upper bowl, lower bowl, podium, and the vomitory staircase. Wherein for the upper bowl, we have the Y columns, and we have the radial beams at the top, and the radial beams are connected with the circumferential beams. In turn, there are secondary radial beams wherein your seating units are placed. And the lower bowl is done with the radial beams, circumferential beams, and raker seating elements. We have for the podium the PT circumferential beams, which are pre-tension beams, and the hollow core slabs are spanned between your circumferential beams. And we have also used the solid slabs where there are voids which are left over by the hollow core slabs. And the last one is the vomitory staircase. So we'll be focusing mainly on the upper bowl elements, which are more critical. So this is the bare framing of a typical bay of the upper bowl, wherein we, as informed, this is our Y column, HY column with the main arm and a slender arm, which is around 280 metric tons. And your front column is the GY column, which is around 140 metric tons. So on top of the Y columns, we have the radial beams, which is basically a 2-segment element, which are orthogonally connected with the circumferential beams. We also have a secondary radial beam, which are simply supported over the circumferential beams. So the right image is the same bare structure covered with the bleacher units, and the surface of the Y columns covered with the vomitory staircases. Coming to the sequence of erection, this is the bare, this is a discretized form of the precast elements, wherein you can see this is the HY column, which has at its top of the slender arm the dry joints, and for the GY column, we have the both ends at the top are considered with the dry joint. And whereas for the main arm of the HY column is considered with the wedge joints. And coming to the primary radial beam, it is a 2-segment element. Wherever if you have considered the dry joints, the pockets are left inside the radial beams, and which will be grouted with a high strength grout. Now, the one what you see here is the wedge joint, wherein after placing the radial beams over the columns, the additional reinforcement and shear reinforcement will be tied together, and with concreting will be done. Now, normally when it comes to precasting, other than the normal stresses of moments and shears, there are other there will be enormous forces and stresses during the lifting, transportation, and erection, because like you don't have the member might not have achieved their ultimate strength at that point of time. So we have ensured that we have done a scaled model verification, and what you see on the top is the scale model verification for how the element is being lifted from its horizontal to the vertical position. And what you see at the bottom is basically the various tilting images. And what you see on top of the slender arm is basically the structural steel member, which is placed over the slender arm. This is because at the horizontal position, the slender arm, which is around 18 meter long and having a cross section of 1 meter by 1 meter, cannot withstand on its own. So this prefabricated structural steel beam has been placed fixed over the slender arm, which acts as a composite beam temporarily during the erection. Okay. Yeah, as informed, like we had done enormous exercise in terms of the various erection sequences. So the first one is basically wherein the element is being lifted from the casting yard to the stacking yard. You can see the element is lifted using a single crane with the multiple spreader beams. So it is simultaneously lifted toward any kind of a differential movements. So one on the right side, what you see is the analysis and the behavior at that particular point of time, and the reinforcements are verified for that particular stage. The second image, what you see here is the basically during the tilting of the HY column from the horizontal position to the vertical position. This is one of a unique method wherein we have considered C clamps. There are two main cranes. The C clamp is being lifted by the main crane, and we have one tailing crane. So this C clamp is just positioned just above the CG of the member, wherein when the C clamp gets lifted, the element rotates and comes vertical. So what you see on the right side is the corresponding member behavior. The image on the left shows the image, the column being tilted from its horizontal to the vertical position at the inclined position, and the corresponding analysis force moments. The image on the right, now what you see on the right is the vertical element after being lifted to its vertical position. Now, after being tilted to the vertical position, again the slender arm will not be able to cantilever out for 18 meters long. So what you have done is we have tied together the slender arm and the main arm with a tie. So till such time the primary beam is placed over the column, so this tie holds the slender arm with the main arm. Now coming to the primary radial beam, as informed, there are two segments of the primary radial beams. So this again, the elements are casted horizontally, and it is meticulously transported to the position, lifted using the cranes, and rotated rotated to the actual position, then lifted. So what you see on the right, if you see there are holes at the bottom of the beam. These are the slots which is provided in the primary the beams during casting. So this will go inside the structural steel embedments which are placed in the column. Now this is the image of a circumferential beam which is being lifted and placed over the primary radial beams. Now the circumferential beams are not fully precast. These are partially precast beams wherein the center portion of the beam is precast and which is placed inside the cage, prefabricated cage, wherein the materials, the reinforcement, everything is placed on the ground and lifted and placed in position. So this forms as a surface wherein the workman will be able to work safely at a greater heights, which also avoids scaffolding requirements of this 35-meter height. Now the dowels in this we have left the dowels in the circumferential beams wherein these dowels are connected to the dowels from the primary radial beam, and then additional shear reinforcements are placed and then concreted. So what you see is the shade difference. Basically, this is the precast zone, and these are the cast in situ zones which is made. And after casting the circumferential beams, we have the secondary radial beams which are precast and then simply placed over the corbels in the circumferential beams. This is basically to bifurcate the span of the double L bleacher units. So which is basically spans from between your primary radial beam and the secondary beam. And this is your completed view of one typical bay of the upper bowl with your primary beams, secondary beams, and circumferential beams. Now coming to the dry joint connection, this is one of the unique method what we have adopted. Basically what happens is like your shear and axial tension from the beam is resolved to the axial compression and shear to the column. Now the unbalanced moments are in addition to that, we have the unbalanced moments from the beam again is also transferred to the column. Now the structural steel element, the embedment length has been calculated based on the limiting stress in the concrete, which is 0.447 FCK. Yeah, to get into the more on the dry joint types. So what you see is the prefabricated structural steel member with the stiffener plates. So this member is like 50% of the element steel member will be embedded inside your column, and the 50% will be embedded into the beam. So the first image is a prefabricated member, and second image shows the member inserted in the column rebar cage. And this is the top of the column after being casted. And this image reflects the slots in the primary radial beams, wherein these steel members will be embedded inside the slots. So this is the position of the beam, which is being were in direction and progress and placed over the column. Now this is the completed after being erected, how it looks like. And there are other images which represents the completed form of the primary radial beam after being erected over the columns. Now coming to the seating elements, we have used two types of seating elements. One is the double L bleacher units, basically for the upper bowl, and second one is the raker seating elements for the lower bowl. The main difference is that your L bleachers will be spanning between your radial beams, and your raker seating elements will be spanning between your circumferential beams. The main intent of going for the raker elements is like you have a lesser riser heights for the lower bowl, so wherein we have used this raker elements, which caters to basically your element spans between the beams on the either ends. So this is a completed form of the stadium with the seating units. So as such, there will not be any differentiation as such when you look into the element types. Differentiation will not be seen through. Now coming to the bearings, we have used two types of bearings for basically with anchorage and without anchorage, depending on the vertical loads and the shear. There are around 549 numbers of bearings being used, predominantly with the non-anchorage type. So what you see here is the anchorage type of a bearing, which is used for connections between the lower bowl to the podium parts. And this is the anchorage. This is the anchorage without anchorage type bearing. Yeah. Coming to the vomitory staircases, we have two vomitory staircases to access the upper bowls. The one with the lower vomitory staircase. This basically comprises of, we have two RC walls on either sides and connected with the landing slab in between. So what we have done is the entire unit is fabricated on ground as a single unit and then lifted as such and then placed in position. So that's how the lower vomitory staircase has been done. Coming to the upper vomitory staircase, the main intent is like the architect's intent is to like utilize the surface of the column for accessing the upper bowl. The main requirement was like there should not be any intermediate columns for supporting your flight's landing slabs, and also the flight has to be sleek without any kind of a protrusions. So there are total in 42 numbers of such staircases along the podium. Now, getting into the discretized form of the vomitory staircase, you can see we have the landing slab, which is cast along with the structural steel beams, and this is welded to these steel inserts. These inserts are positioned with careful planning in the columns while casting. So the landing slab along with the steel bracket is welded to these inserts. So after the landing slab is positioned, we also have the structural members which are orthogonally placed over the surface of the columns. So these members are again welded to the surface of the column. Then we have the main waist slabs, which is again bifurcated into three segments. The main segment, which is on the center, is the largest span placed over the steel beams. And then we have the small segments which will be which are supported on the steel member and the landing slab. Now, in general, like stadiums are susceptible to vibrations because of the crowd movement. So we have analyzed or verified the stadium based on the ISTRUCT recommendations, which provides 4 scenarios. And we have adopted the Route 3 scenario, scenario type 3, which opts to our stadium requirements. And we have verified the vibration analysis using Route 1 and Route 2 types. So basically, ISTRUCT gives recommendations for a permanent grandstands, and which is applicable for constructions ranging from RCC, pre-stressed concrete, structural steel, or any combination of the above. However, this provides only for the dynamic action of the crowd activity. Now, in India, we are crazy people over cricket. So crowd rhythmic action will excite the structure at its natural frequency, which will result in discomfort and panic to the crowd if it is not being addressed. So there are two methods to verify the human comfort as per ISTRAC-T, which is a route 1 method, which specifies the minimum values of the natural frequency, and it's a route 2 method which specifies the maximum acceleration limits. Now, based on your mass of the structure and mass of the crowd, we have estimated the acceleration based on the graphs provided by the ISTRAC-T. You can see the modes identified in different colors, and we are in for the scenario type 3 and for the route 2, our acceleration is only 0.64, whereas the permissible limit is 7.5. So hence our the global model of the stadium is safe against vibration. To end the concrete part, I will just we had also applied for patents for under two categories. One under the precast portal structure having precast elements with dry connections, which is one of the unique method what has been adopted for the stadium, and second is for the raker seating elements for the lower bowl. So these two items which we have applied for the patents. With this, I will hand over to Mr. Raghupati to take up further for the roof structures. Thank you.
Thank you, Murali, and welcome everybody. This is the topic regarding the roof structure of the stadium, which is a unique structure. Normally, this type of structure we have not done as before, and this type of roof has been done in the football stadiums earlier in Europe and other Western countries. This type of concepts for the cricket stadium was done. This is the first time, and how it works is there is this concept known as a simple bicycle spoke wheel. How it works, similar concept has been adapted here for thing, where in the bicycle wheel we have a central hub, and we have a rim, outer ring, which will be connected with the spokes and it will be tensioned so that that load will be transferred in the form. Similar way, here we have a compression ring, outer compression ring. It's a steel compression ring, and we have an inner tension ring which is with the cables and is tied with the radial cables, which will be connected to the top and bottom compression ring. And we have a valley cable which will form a drainage pattern, the shape which will form a drainage pattern, so that the water whichever due to the rain and other things which will fall, and we have a gutter at this edge of your compression ring will be collected, and we have a downcomer pipe which will be taken to the ground level and transferred to the drains. And another thing, as Mr. Aravind has told, that this has been fixed with the LED lights, which has been connected at the inner tension ring of the stadium roof, which you can see in the picture. So coming to the roof structure, you can see this segment. We have each segment between the each grid. This compression rings forms a steel element which is having a V column, and you have a top cord, bottom cord and top cord, which will be connected with the braced members. This forms a compression ring. And then come to the inner tension ring, which will have a 4 set of cables. It will be tied together with forms of weldments, and Then it is connected with the radial cables. This is known as the ridge cable, and this is the inner cable, which forms a sloping shape. Naturally it will drain the waters from the roof. And finally this V column will be supported on a concrete pedestal, which is independent of the main bowl structure, which we can show in the next few slides. So this is the V column, which has been connected to the concrete pedestal, it will be connected to the foundation directly. And this bowl structure is isolated by means of bearings, which will not transfer any lateral load to this thing. So this column, this roof structure is an independent structure. And similarly, in the VIP pavilion, we have a 4 mega bearings, which has been rested over the building, and the roof has been connected to these bearings, where we will not transfer any lateral load to the building. So coming to the materials which we used for the stadium is the compression ring. The compression ring is having a huge pipes of a diameter of 355 to 1050 diameters, which has been fabricated separately. And this tension ring is made of a tension 90 mm cables, which is known as a fully locked cable, which you can see here in the picture. It's not a regular pre-stressing cable, which this fully locked cable has a shape of wires is like a Z shape, which will give a better E value, elastic modulus, so that your strength also will be higher than the regular cables, and it will be connected by means of a weldments, which you can see this type of sockets will be pinned to the structure. And the third one is the covering of this roof with means of the PTFE fabric, this which have been imported from the Japan by the agency known as Chuko, the manufacturer known as Chuko. Its properties are having the tensile strength of 7,500 Newton per 5 centimeter, and it has been connected by means of the galvanized plates. You can see here. Coming to the design point of view, as I earlier told that it has been independently designed because it is not connected with a bowl structure. So this analysis is done by means of NDN software, which will form a nonlinear analysis. And you can see this your concrete column also has been modeled along with this to form as a single unit. And this is the location where you have a VAP pavilion, where we don't have a V-shaped column, where we will be fixed this one with a 4 bidirectional bearing, which I have shown earlier. And this roof structure doesn't have a huge dead weight because of it's a lightly loaded fabric structure. And you can see this fabrics has a load of around 0.02 kilonewton per square meter. Apart from that, you have a FOP lighting over the inner tension ring, and the weight of self weight of the structure. And you will have a inner walkway which is being provided to take care of the maintenance of the structure. And another thing is it's a huge flexible structure. So we have considered the response value of R, reduction value of R, so that it is designed as an elastic structure. So it's have a more ductility has been considered in the design. And this for the design of the fabric, we have considered ASE 19 or 10, which is used for the manual for the steel cable. And for the tensile fabric, we used ASCE 5510, which is for the design. And for the structural steel, we have used ASC, American Institute of Steel Design, as well as the IS 800-2007 limit state. We have checked for both the thing, and the joints has also been designed for that. And due to this flexibility and the shape of the structure, we have to do the wind analysis by means of wind tunnel study. Since we don't have a specific table or criteria in the IS 875, so we need to go for the wind tunnel study. And we have this wind tunnel study has been done for around some 36 number of directions, and with each direction have 10-degree increments. And the model of 1 in 400 scale, we have made a prototype, and it has been done in Sydney, the agency known as Windtech. With that, we have done analysis with the Indian software, and we got the member forces and design by means of the Indian software. And these are the stresses and the design limitations which has been found out from this software. And the membrane has also been designed with the non-linear analysis, and the stresses has been checked for the with respect to the allowable stress of the membrane. And finally, we also checked the form finding of this membrane, because this whatever the shape which forms, it need to drain the water which come due to the rainfall and other water stagnants. That has been checked, and it has been found to be okay. And the connection design has been done with the ASCE as well as IS 800-2007. And there are various type of joints in these elements, which you can see the 3D view of some of the peculiar connections. Now coming into the erection process, because here the design will not stop in only completing our analysis and giving the drawings to the site. It will come including the erection of the structure, because it has 3 different materials like structural steel, this fully locked cables, as well as the PTFE fabric. There should be an erection accuracy to be taken care in the construction stage. And each stage of construction, we need to undergo the check of the geometry of the structure, as well as the tolerance, and any secondary stresses has been developed or not. These are the various challenges which we went undergone during the construction stage also. Now we will just look into the how the compression ring has been erected, as well as the how we have checked this some of the theoretical features in this. Here the compression ring has been segmented into different zones. You can see this is the part we have a V column, which is first erected, and then we have the compression ring will have a segment like this. You have a bottom compression ring, bottom cord and top cord, and with having this bracing will be formed as a one segment. Similarly, we need to erect the 52 segment of the compression ring. For each segment erection, we need to provide a temporary truss, which will form like a stable element. Unless you complete your complete ring, it need to be a stable structure. So we need to provide this type of temporary element to support this one. For this V column, we have a temporary arrangement which has been fixed and it will be clamped in the bowl structure. While doing the compression ring, we have this type of a trussel, which you can see in the next slide. It will be fitted on the bowl, and then it will be connected to the compression ring. So you can see here in these images. So this is the one segment which has been formed. Similarly, for each segment, you need to go for um, a temporary trussel. And once you go to the semicircle, you can remove the alternate temporary trussel, so that this each stage of erection we have analyzed separately that what is the secondary stresses due to that wind due to the erection stage, the wind applied and also checked. See, this is the sequence and how it has been erected. And finally, this is the compression ring has been completed. This is the stage where your steel erection has been completed. Now coming to the cable installation, we have three stages of installation. One is the we have big lift, which where you have cables will be placed over the compression ring, and in the synchronized way we need to pull this cable and bring to the position of the position and the roof in this level. So all these cables has been tied with means of a jack at different levels, and these need to be stretched and bring to this position. So each this is known as the big lift, and at each stage of lifting and fixing, we need to check the geometry of the compression ring. It should not deviate from its theoretical geometry. So we have a survey points at each nodes of this compression ring. For each stage of erection, we need to just survey this point, and we need to check the uh, theoretical points, whether it is been matching with that. The designer has given a stringent tolerances which it need to be matched. If anything goes wrong, we need to just communicate to the designer, and we have to ask them the any how to bring back to the position, any sequence has to be changed or not. This is how it has been done. Before going to this big lifting and all, these are several site preparation need to be done. One is we have to make a walkway above the compression ring. These are the temporary walkway which we need to provide is to fix the jack, and also to go and survey along this compression ring. So this is the temporary platform which has been provided above that. You can see in this top compression ring, which you can this is the temporary walkway. And apart from that, you have a radial cable which is coming at each grids, and this is your tension ring. So before going to the big lift, this need to be placed on the bowl, and then which will be fixed to the jack which is kept on the compression ring. For pulling that cable, this need to be kept on this temporary wooden platform. Why? Because if you keep on the bare concrete structure, once you pull this cable will be damaged, because it is the galvanized cable. It will form an abrasion on the cable. So this need to be properly handled. So many site preparation has to be done before doing the lifting of this cable. So after that, these are the some of the techniques which has been adapted at site to lift the tension cable and place over this platform because this is a heavy cables. It's having a more than 10 to 20 tons. So it has to be lifted and kept on the position. So huge cranes and equipments has been taken and been placed over these platforms and rolled over that. You can see here this is a VIP pavilion. So here you are seeing that a huge platforms also has been provided over that to take in position. See here you can see the cables. This jacks has been fixed over the compression ring. We have provided some arrangement over the compression ring to fix this cable jack. Such jacks, around 52 number of jacks has been kept its each nodes. Here the big lift we have to lift in a synchronized manner so that no secondary stresses will be developed on the cables as well as the compression ring. So these cables has been fixed with this temporary clamping arrangement and then fixed to the cable. Once you come, once this coming into the position, then it will be pulled and you can see these clamps will be fixed to this. There will be some. You can see here there are some projections from the compression ring. You can fix on that. So coming to the big lift, as I already told that these cables will be fixed to kept over the this bowl and need to be pulled and brought to the position. It has a temporary clamps and stand jacks will be filled. These are all the point where the jacks has been fixed in the plan. So these all the jacks has been stressed equally. The forces has been erected for each stage of pulling. So it will start slowly and it come to the position. So you can see this. It will be pulled at this point and it will be bring to this position. See, this is the final stage of your big lift where your top radial cable and your tension ring is come into some position. So you can see here is the jack. This is the sequence where your big lift has been completed. So all your 52 nodes has been pulled together and it's come to this position. And now after coming into the position, you need to bring this cable. See here, this is the temporary clamp. You have the cable points. So now end point, which need to be bring to this position and pin to this point of the compression ring. So this is this how it has been clamped to this compression ring. So all your top radial cables will be pinned. So now your total big lift of the top compression ring has been completed. The next sequence is to pull and pin your bottom ridge cable so that you will form a shape like this. So here also we have different sequence for each cable need to be pulled and pinned to this compression ring. So this is also analyzed for each stage of pulling and pinning. The forces has to be checked for each stage, and we need to survey this compression geometry, whether this is any abnormal deformation is coming on the compression ring or not. So these things we have to just have a conversation along with the designer and coordinate and bring to this position. And finally, this will be pulled and pinned to the bottom compression ring. So after completing your pinning, you can see these cables has been in position. You can see these cables has been positioned, pinned to the bottom and top compression ring. So this is the final stage of your cable laying and fixing to the compression ring. After all, this need to be covered with the fabric. Here also the fabric has been done like a panels. You can see the yellow thing. Each panel has to be fixed, and during this fixing also there will be a sequence starting from one point to other point will be done as a segment only. Before doing this also, we need to do a surveying and see that the positions are okay. And after that, if you come this first stage of thing is we have to fabricate this clamps and all in the fabric and bring to the site. And during the erection of this each panel, we have to do this temporary platform which we need where your fabric will be brought as a roll to the side and lifted at this tension ring side, and then it will be pulled to the compression ring by means of people who will be kept at this location on either side. They will pull this fabric and bring to this position, and temporarily they will fix it with the means of a ratchet belts. Same way, each panel will be brought and fixed to the place and fixed to the ratchet belts. You can see here this temporary platform which is being brought and fixed to the radial cable. And in the ground level, there will be the roll has been kept in the spindle and it's been lifted to the tension ring location. So you can see this, they are pulling the fabric at the top level and brought to this brought to this your compression ring, and they are fixing with the ratchet belts. So this will form each panels, and finally they'll start the clamping of your fabric by to the cables. It will form a fabric, will be formed like this final shape will be formed here. This is the completed shape of your fabric and the roof. Next interesting thing is a facade which has been kept in the VIP pavilion. This is some of an architectural intent of pottery industries, where Ahmedabad, which is one of the hub of the pottery industries. And another thing is the pattern of the wave, which forms the river, which is near to the stadium, which is suburban the river. These all put together and form the shape of this facade of the stadium. And each panel will be formed like a doubly curvature profile, where this element will have backspan of back structural steel frame, which need to be supported to the bowl, the VIP building. And this shape of this aluminum sheeting facade, which will have each eye will form almost some 80 to 88 numbers of such panels, which need to be fixed on each eye. This eye panel have around 43 elements which need to be fixed, and finally it will form like this shape. So here there are various 3D elements has been done. This structural steel element has been done by means of the rivet, and this is the back frame, and this aluminum facade is been done in a separate factory, and then we have to superimpose and check that whether it matches with the geometry, and intermediately to fix this facade as well as the secondary element secondary structural steel element to the main structural steel frame, there are various methodology we have adapted, and with means of the 3D Revit software, as well as the this aluminum panel has been done by means of different software, Rhinos, and those things need to be interfaced and brought to a segment, and this should be user friendly for the construction. So we have done various mock-ups also before doing the construction in the factory as well as at the site. Then we have used a hollow section for doing this back steel frame, because this is having a doubly curved profile. So this need to be bent to a shape. This all the hollow section need to be bent to the shape, and this we did at the site at the factory, and we made some different mock-ups to bring this shape. Finally, this is the profile which we got, and it's been erected. You can see it in the picture. And finally, we thank the Department of Civil Engineering for giving us a good opportunity from Marwadi University and AICT Training and Learning Academy for giving us an opportunity. And thank you.
Yeah, very nice, Raghuvati. Thank you very much. Dear audience, it is a very good experience and pleasure to us. We thank once again Dr. Tarok and team and Marwadi University Civil Engineering Department for giving us opportunity. I just want to tell you that in L&T construction, we have very good opportunity in converting the academic knowledge into the practical knowledge. And it is our privilege that we are developing continuously in the field of civil engineering. And as we grow that, we have to see the other discipline also. This we have very good advantage. I hope that you people definitely might have enlightened with this. There are a lot of other things can be explained. We covered some of the major design aspects and design parameters and the construction sequence. Started with the architecture. I hope that you enjoyed on this. And secondly, I just want to highlight one of the major parameters is that the structure, the stadium structure, the RCC and steel structure, major element has been designed for the design life of 100 years. Therefore, that sort of sustainability and other things we have taken care. With this presentation, I end and I hand over to Dr. Tarok team. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. And first of all, I would like to thank the whole team of yours from L&T that you have accepted the invitation wholeheartedly, and you have agreed to share your experience as well as knowledge in this knowledge sharing activity. So I certainly thankful to you from Marwadi University as well as on behalf of Atal Academy AICTE. I have been in the session throughout, and it is really the nice presentation, very concise presentation, which has given the whole know-how about from the conception to the final stage. However, as you said, that many things may have left out, but I'm sure that all the participants have got the clear idea about the concept, design aspect as well as the execution aspect. And obviously it is found that rather than designing, the execution was a bit challenging, and all the stages which are explained, and they are very much effective to understand that how this has gone. And it is so easy to see, but it is so difficult to execute. That also we can imagine from the presentation. So thank you once again, and we'll be in touch for such sessions in future also. We'll request you to support this academy industry institute relationship.
Yes, sir.
And at the same time, I am thankful to GT Bhagchandani sir also for taking initiative to get the nod from your authorities. So I'll request Amit sir to take up the questions, whatever we have.
Yes, sir.
So the first question is what is the wet joint and dry joint, and what is the difference between them?
Yeah, very good. See, the difference is the dry joint. I can explain very simply. The dry joint is nothing but we made the holes and the projections, so the insert in the precast concrete, so that the protrusion of the structural steel will penetrate into the pockets, so that the connection between the one element to other element is going to happen through only structural steel, not reinforcement. And after inserting the structural steel member into the other element, we will seal it with a high strength grout, so that the monolithic joint has been occurred. This is mainly to work at the elevated height of around 30-35 meters, so that you no need to go there and put a reinforcement, put the shuttering, align it and pour the concrete. It is a huge exercise. We have to do a lot of shuttering, and the time is more. Then what is the wet joint? Wet joint is nothing but a usual joint, which you know that precast column and precast beam, if you erect, you have to tie the reinforcement and you have to make a shuttering. Therefore, wet joint we have provided at a place where it is somewhat difficult and we cannot manage. That location only we provided, and that is a minimum location. That's a very minimal location we did.
Okay, sir. The second one is what is the difference between the circumferential beam and secondary radial beam?
Circumferential beam is running along the periphery. Radial beam is running along the radial direction. In radial direction, we had two type of beam. One is beam which is connecting the columns, that we called as a primary radial beams. Which another one type of beam we called as a secondary radial beam, which is sitting over the circumferential beam to reduce the span. Therefore, there are two types of radial beam. One is primary radial beam and secondary radial beam, which is running along the radial direction. Circumferential beam is running along the circumferential direction.
Okay,
Peripheral direction.
Next one is the challenges that faced during this unique project. Means explain how you have faced the challenges and planned the remedies or the corrective actions.
Yeah, there are many challenges. I can tell you that in two challenges which I can tell you very clearly. The RCC is one challenge, and another is the structural steel. RCC element, as Mr. Muralidharan explained, the challenge was you would have seen that the Y-shaped column, that HY shaped column, contains 280 tons load. With this has to be cast in horizontal position and transported to the required location at the radial locations, and it has to be lifted in a horizontal position, tilted to the vertical position, and place it over the required location. Now, this element is very intricate shape. You have seen that. Architect has developed a shape which is going to be aesthetically pleasing and give a very good impression. That is the requirement. Now, if you come to the structural engineering, you see that there is a slender column which is cantilevering more than 18 meters. In horizontal position, lifting from the casting yard is very simple. When you tilt into the vertical position, it was very difficult. If you lift in horizontal position, the bending of the slender member in one direction. If you tilt it in the vertical direction, the bending of the slender member is other direction. Initially, when we lifted, the slender member got failed. First lift was failed. It was totally broken, and exactly at the fixed end of the slender member, we got crack. Later, what we did is we added a structural steel back frame, which acted as a monolithic member, composite member when you lift in the horizontal direction. The horizontal direction is critical for the 90 degree, that is flat. When you tilt to the vertical, that's all over that direction location, the bending is overcome. But when you tilt in the vertical direction, other direction, it is going away from the locations. We should anchor, we should make strengthen in that direction, so that we made a truss member on that direction. Therefore, during lifting from horizontal to vertical, yes, back member was supported, and after vertical, until the tie beam has been placed, we have provided the in radial direction the truss. That is a case. And other challenges is that rather I can tell you that it's a very advantageous to us. As a designer in my office, we used to, including me, we used to be there at site during erection and during the performance of all the very, very critical exercise, so that we will be witnessing, and as and when required, the design solution will be given there, along with the project management team, along with the consultant. Therefore, it's a real-time project, on-time decision can be made. This is a very big challenge for the RCC. And come to the structural steel, as Mr. Raghupati explained, the lifting of the cables are very, very important. If you lift, if you stress the cable in one direction differently, or it is coming somewhat the geometry in actual condition, in the theoretic, in the execution condition, there is something difference is occurring. The stresses will be more. You know that in structural steel, if the very, very minor, even 10 mm, 20 mm, the difference in the geometry itself will create a lot of stress, internal stresses. Therefore, that to be properly monitored. In this case, one of the lift or one of the tying time of the cable, the bracing member failed, it got buckled. Therefore, we need to stop all those things. Again, we have to retension it and bring to the original shape, and the sequence of the cable pulling was changed. And every time we have to monitor the deflection, deformation, geometry of the location of the very critical point, go back to the designer, and the designer position it and say that how much internal stress is there, whether it is okay or not, until the end of the cable, last cable pulling and tying, the geometry to be pakka, otherwise someone of the member will get failed. That is a case. After that also, there was a very big challenge that laying the profile of the fabric. If you don't get the proper fabric geometry, there will be a local ponding and water will not get discharged out. Therefore, the geometry also to be measured. Challenges are plenty. I just explained 2 challenges in RCC and structural steel.
Sir, is there any provision to cover the whole ground at roof level, so that ongoing game will not affected by rain or the storm?
Sorry, can you repeat again this question, please?
Is there any provision to cover the whole ground at roof level, so that ongoing game will not be affected by rain?
Okay. Yeah, my understanding is that how the maintenance facilities you are telling, is it? I'm not able to fully get this question, please. Can you?
Sir, here they are asking instead of 30-meter span roof, why not the full circle has been covered with roof? So it will be a kind of a indoor stadium.
Okay. Yeah. See, it's our wish. I totally appreciate and very, very much related to hear that. See, right now, I will tell you the volume of the things. It's a mammoth stadium, 1 lakh people. Its height is 40 meter and the width is 100 meter. Now, you covering that top portion itself, the stadium circumference is approximately 1 kilometer, 1,000 meter, or 30-meter cantilever. Therefore, this itself is a huge structure. We can do that, but considering the cost and the requirement, this has been provided. Otherwise, it can be covered with the upper bowl alone. Lower bowl covering will have a very, very Herculean task. Covering the upper bowl about from 30 to, I can say, some 45-50 meter, it is a good thing. But based on the comfortness, people decided that 30 is sufficient based on the cost provision and the requirement. They have adjusted themselves. Hope I cleared it.
Yes.
Answer for that.
So next question is the what are the provisions given for the effective drainage of rainwater at ground level?
Very good question. So that's what I just want to tell Dr. Tarak that there was a very enlightened design for the MEP designs are there that will take another more than 1.5 hours to present. And this question belongs to the public health engineering, this one where the drainage system has been taken care. In this, the drainage, a field of drainage has been provided with a conventional drainage system with providing with a lot of tributary network, which contains the different grade of soil, and also provided with the perforated pipe wrapped with the geotextile membrane along with all the graded material, so that within 10 minutes, the water which is coming in the drain in the field of play will get discharged through the perforated pipe, and which is connected to the circumferential drain all along the stadium. We have witnessed this one for past 2-3 years, and we never faced any problem. And there is one more system is available, mechanical drainage, where we can suck it and discharges. But this drainage has been, this gravitational flow drainage has been taken care as per all the codal standard. It is performing well.
Okay, sir. Next question is about the thermal stresses produced in tensile ring cables during the hot session.
Sorry, what is a permanent stress?
It is about the consideration of the thermal stresses produced in tensile ring cables during hot season.
Yeah, it is. Raghuvi, can you answer?
So logic is if thermal stress means thermal load is applied, then there will be elongation. So is there any effect on overall mechanism that?
Yeah, correct, sir. What I can tell you is that it is one of the load case, which based on our conditions of ambient conditions, we will be considering one of the load case. And very well in the structural design, other than the thermal, there will be there will be other stresses like pre-stressing, and there will be a seismic forces and the wind load. Along with that, all the thermal cases also been considered in the whichever governing critical case has been designed.
Okay, sir. And the next one is about the type of software which is used for the analysis and design.
Sir, it's a good question, sir. We in structural RCC, we used ETABS. The software which is being predominantly used, ETABS has been used. STAAD also we used for the analysis. But for the structural steel, which Raghuvi was explained, there is NDN software, which was it's a localized software which is being used for this type of structure. It is a specialized software which is can be used for that type of structure. Therefore, ETABS, STAAD, even SAP, all other related to ETABS, and then the NDN software for structural design.
Okay, sir. Last question is, what is the expertise level required to design such type of structures?
Yeah, sir, actually, I can tell you that very, very simply, I can say that if you understand the basics, that is the first main criteria, sir. Other than that, it's like, tying with some other major consultant, proper consultant, and getting the knowledge from them, and whatever available knowledge to be properly streamlined, and we have to go with that, sir. Other than that, every things requires a very, very fundamental basic understanding should be there with us. And as and when required, we have to see that who are all the specialists in that. We have to tie up with them, and we have to go along with them, sir. That's all. It is our continuous endeavor to travel in the engineering paths.
So thank you, sir. This is all the question I think are covered. So Tarak sir.
Yeah. So thank you very much, sir, for this question answer session also. And I'm sure that this is going to be the best session of the FDP because the theme that is really that is covered in the session, that what is the analytical as well as design aspect, each and everything that is covered. So thank you once again, sir, to you as well as your whole team for making this nice presentation and supporting this event organized by Marwar University as well as supported by Atal Academy.
Thank you, sir. Thanks once again. We'll be
Yeah.
more happy to hear you again once again. And it was a nice experience, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Tarak.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Chandani sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Okay. So participants, we will take a lunch break, and after this lunch break, we will have the session on Statue of Unity from Rasmikant Thakkar sir. So please, all are requested to join in time. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.